Welcome, online sports talk fans. Today is the day after the big Detroit Lions win over the Kansas City Chiefs, and there's a lot to take in from last night's game. I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions, and most of it's great. So obviously it was not a perfect game, never is. There are some things to work on, but ultimately I am very, very happy with that win. You guys know, based on my predictions before, I actually thought the Lions were going to lose. I just thought Mahomes at home was going to be too tough for the Lions to handle, and I was wrong. Now, a lot of people out there today are saying, oh, well, Jones didn't play, Kelsey didn't play. If those guys played, it'd be a different story. But you can say the same thing about the Lions. You know, Jamison Williams didn't play. He clearly is our deep threat guy, the guy who's going to stretch the defense, open up a lot of the underneath stuff that we like to do. And on top of that, we also had Emmanuel Mosley, who did not play, who is our number 2 corner. So, you can say what you want about 2 guys not playing for the Chiefs, but we had some guys not playing too that I think would have made a big impact. With that, we're going to go through the game. I do have some interesting notes here, based on stats and data that I am going to touch on. But the thing that really stood out to me again was the fact that our defense is significantly improved. The defense was able to cover really well. And yes, I know the Chiefs had 4 drops last night. A couple of them were key drops in key situations. Basically, when they needed to make a play, the Chiefs came up short. But when the Lions needed to make a play, they executed. They came through, People want to say that the only reason that Branch had that pick 6 was because of a drop, but at the same time, Branch made an excellent play to reach back, grab that ball, and secure it and run it in for the end zone. So it was a combination of a bad play by the Chiefs and a great play by Brian Branch, the rookie. Once again, the 4 standout rookies, our first 4 draft picks this year, look like they are all superb players. They are all plus players. They are all really, really good, and I love to see that. Jahmyr Gibbs, okay, the first pick in the draft for us, there's no doubt about it. He is a big play waiting to happen. There were multiple times where he looked like he was possibly going to take it the distance. One thing that he showed that I don't think a lot of people expected is his ability to break tackles. Not only is he as fast as lightning, but he can break tackles. He runs hard. And that is not something that people gave him credit for before last night. So, love to see that. Really good. Brian Branch, he hits hard. He covers really well. He catches really well. He is tremendously focused. He is a smart football player. He is going to be great. Might be the best player in this draft when we look back on it in a few years. He might be. Him and Gibbs might be the best 2 players in this draft when we look back on it. And that might be kind of crazy of me to say right now, but I truly think it's possible. Laporta played great. I think he had 5 catches for like 70 yards or something. Laporta looked great. He wasn't even our starter last night. Jack Campbell, when he was in there, he made plays. He made that one diving swat for an incomplete pass that I think was huge. The guy looked wide open. Campbell dove and swatted it away. There were a couple big plays. Campbell plays mean and nasty. There were some times where he was violently throwing guys to the ground. So that was great to see. Again, love seeing it. All 4 guys should be starters by the end of this year. All 4 guys, I think, are amazing. Now, based on my predictions, our run game did not reach expectations. I was expecting, 200 yards on the ground. It didn't happen. A lot of that, I think, was because the Chiefs were choosing to blitz a lot. They did run blitzes a lot. I think with Jones being out, the way they were calling their defense was to not give up the run. But when it needed to happen, guys like Gibbs were able to break off some runs. Montgomery in crunch time in the 4th quarter was able to pick up that first down. There was that other play where he was able to get the touchdown. Almost every Montgomery run seemed like he was pushing guys 2 or 3 yards further to pick up some yardage. So still very impressed with Montgomery. Again, I just think it was the amount of guys that were in the box. I saw some highlights today. Obviously I watched the full game last night, but I saw some highlights that just reiterated that for me, where the Chiefs were stacking the box at times and the Lions were still able to pick up those necessary yards. Jared Goff, 250 yards, 1 touchdown, very efficient, no interceptions. I think like a 94 rating. That's what you get with Goff. Steady, consistent. He shouldn't cost you the game. You like to see it. There was one point on a 4th and 2 where he dropped back to pass. The back of the pocket was kind of collapsing in, and he stepped forward. But he had his left guard and center weren't blocking anyone. He could have ran. Could have ran and picked up the first down. There was nobody for about 8 to 10 yards, it looked like. And instead, he tried to throw it to his right. It got batted down. And we failed to convert on that 4th down. But, and you got to imagine if that was almost any other quarterback, by today's standards, the scrambling type, they probably would have picked that up. But they also probably would have thrown an interception at some point in that game, because Chiefs are playing some pretty tight coverage last night. That we were pretty fortunate to still move the ball. So, again, still very happy with Goff's performance. It was not amazing, but it was pretty dang good, and I'm pretty happy with that. And yes, I am in the let's re-sign Goff to a long contract. The Lions didn't pull out a lot of trick plays, I felt like, and that's okay. They obviously went for it on 4th down on their own 17, which I was blown away by. I thought that was crazy. I was so shocked, but obviously thrilled we got it. And then we went down the field and scored on that drive. So it was amazing. Lions do that sometimes, where they just go for it. And on their own 17, I think hasn't been done in like 5 years by a football team in the NFL. So very gutsy, definitely made me go, okay, we are here tonight to go for broke, and they did. Because if we didn't get that whole game could have had a whole different feel to it. If the Chiefs then get the ball on the 20, and then they, get into the end zone there, that whole game could have been different after that. But we got out to the early lead, and we hung on to it. The defense is significantly improved. We held Patrick Mahomes to a 32.2 QBR for the second half. Yes, a 32.2 quarterback rating. That's unheard of, I feel like, when you're talking about Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to the final stretch of the game in the 4th quarter, you never feel safe. You might have a 14-point lead, and if Mahomes is on the other side and healthy like he was last night, you are still afraid. There's still a feeling like, ooh, we better tighten up on defense. And, yeah. So, the whole first half, I got notes here. First quarter, for example, Mahomes was running for his life constantly. Hutchinson was getting into the backfield. Almost every other play, he was getting his guys beat to the point where it seemed like that tackle was false starting and holding constantly. And Hutchinson was still able to get back constantly into that backfield. Obviously, Mahomes moves around great, but yeah. I think the Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is going to be really good. He's very quick, able to get open. He wasn't in there, I feel like, as much as he should have been. I think over the course of this year, Rashee Rice is going to step up and be big for the Chiefs. Yeah. The fumbled snap on the motion, that hurt really bad. Obviously, took us back quite a bit. Gibbs was able to get some yards back on the next play, and that was when I went, okay, Gibbs is for real. Then the fumble by Marvin Jones in the red zone, obviously that cost us some points there, So again, Lions made some mistakes, but things that can be fixed, There was a note I made here in the second quarter that there's no way the Lions can hold the Chiefs forever. The Chiefs drove down, even with a big penalty, they still went down and scored on us in that quarter. And I was like, all right, second quarter, the Chiefs are going to come out and we're going to see the Chiefs offense. That didn't happen that way. In the third quarter, Hutchinson continued to get pressure on Mahomes. There was one play that I completely give all the credit to Hutchinson for the incompletion because Mahomes, I think he overthrew a guy or underthrew a guy. I can't remember. But all because Hutchinson was basically in his face. And it was constant. Like all night I was like gritting my teeth. I'm like, oh, get him. Because he was like so close. And then Mahomes just bolted. So, yeah. Obviously, the tip pick 6 in the third quarter. I got to note that the defense played well. Yeah, Hutchinson pressure forces Mahomes to overthrow more with 8:48 on left in the third quarter. So, yeah, offense was struggling to get going. The penalties were hurting them, but they were able to make up ground, even with the penalties and stuff that put them back in the third quarter. They were still able to pick up first downs here and there, it seemed like, or at least get some of that yardage back so it wasn't as bad. So yeah, there were times where I felt like the Lions were overcoming adversity. Again, the penalties, the things that weren't being called on the Chiefs, like the blatant holding and the tackle lining up about a quarter of a yard too far back because they needed to get out wide and they were struggling. Things like that. And the Lions overcame those things and still were able to win this game. That was huge to me. In the fourth quarter, there were some points where I thought the Lions of old would have folded and the Chiefs would have walked away with this game, but they did not. So that was good to see. Montgomery's touchdown run was a hard run. In fact, he had multiple runs on that drive that looked like he was going to go down for minimal yardage, and he was able to push out. So, yeah. There was one point where everybody false started except for the center, and it just made me laugh. Like, I was like, how does that happen? So, the next play, Jahmyr Gibbs had a really nice follow-up, though. So, again, was cool with that. Didn't really bother me too much because we were able to overcome that setback. Obviously, there was the fourth down I talked about where Goff had his pass batted down. There was the end of the game there where the Chiefs they had a drop, then they had a holding penalty, then a false start where it ended up being like 4th and 25, and they went for it. They should have punted. They really should have. They went for it. We got the ball, that was that. We got the one first down we needed, and we put the game away. So, again, there were points where I think because of our current team, we were able to get the win. This, I've seen some comments on things today, like on my TikTok that I did about the predictions for the game and stuff. And when I got excited after we won, I did a quick TikTok last night. And someone was like, oh, the Chiefs are overrated, blah, 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 blah. No, I think the Lions are just finally a good team. We've got a good secondary. Our linebackers are coming along. Our defense is good. I think we're, again, one defensive tackle away from being an elite defense. So that's why if we could somehow get Jones to Detroit, I think that would be a huge, huge difference maker there and put this defense over the top. Offense. I believe when we get Jameson Williams back, we're going to be sitting pretty. There are a couple things with Marvin Jones that made me go, is he really the right guy? We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a stud. The dude is a superstar. I think he's number one of any wide receiver in the last, 3 years in receptions. So again, I think he's third or fourth for yards and touchdowns, but when it comes to receptions, he's the top of the food chain. So again, I believe we've got the pieces, and I really think this year we could make some noise. There's a good chance the Detroit Lions at the end of the year are sitting there in the NFC Championship game with a shot to win and go to the Super Bowl. Will they make it? I don't know. I don't think they will. I think the Eagles just are too good. Gonna have to see the Eagles play. Now that they don't have CJ GJ as their defense, gonna still be that good. Jalen Carter was a huge get for them. because I think Jalen Carter is going to be the defensive rookie of the year. But hell, if Brian Branch plays lights out, continues to get turnovers, continues to get big hits in key times, and shut down, the slot, who knows? Maybe Brian Branch wins it. I mean, if he gets a couple big, interceptions this year, a couple big forced fumbles, he could be the guy. So you never know. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with this team. I believe that their grit, which is going to be a key word, I think that forced the Chiefs to get a little frustrated, which I think led to the psychological mistakes down the stretch. I think the Chiefs were getting beat. Plain and simple, their lines were getting beat, both offensive and defensive lines. I think the corners felt like they were playing real, real good the whole game, and I think that, we got in their heads there because we were still able to get down, get the lead, and protect the lead. I think our secondary, because we were covering the Chiefs so well, and because the Chiefs made some key drops, I think we were getting in their head, talking, and because we were playing pretty good coverage in a lot of those situations too. I just think eventually the Chiefs broke, and the Lions willed themselves to victory. You see this in games, especially in college. You'll see a close game, and all of a sudden, a single mistake for one team, you call it momentum, but I think a lot of times players realize like, oh, that was our chance. And then a cascade starts happening. It's like knocking down the dominoes. Once that first domino falls, the rest start going. And the weak teams, the teams that don't have the will, the teams that are unable to overcome the stress of it all, they fold. And I don't think this Detroit team is like that. I think they are built different. And part of that is because of how Dan Campbell coaches them up. I believe we have coaches that put them in the right schemes, put them in the right spots. I believe these players believe in each other. And that's why when Isaiah Buggs was doing the social media stuff the other day about, taking, the Lions off his profile and stuff, that's why that stuff bothered me so much, because he's supposed to be a locker room leader. He's supposed to be a guy that we can rely on to keep morale high. A guy that's like, you know what, the coach has made a decision. I'm going to do my part to try and get back out there for the next game and prove it. That's what I would expect a locker room leader to say or do, and not this stuff that kind of happened. Because he didn't even really squash the talk. He just kind of let it be and let it be believed what it was going to be. So, with that, those are my thoughts. I think next week we play the Seahawks.